Yasu, terror and warm salutations to you all. It's Joseph Mendy calling, and you are welcome once again to the Euro Den. Think of this as a battle bus from Fortnite, but instead of jumping off the bus to reach the island, stay on board for a ride into everything regarding the Eurovision Song Contest and the Junior Eurovision Song Contest. On today's show, I'm going to be reflecting on this year's Junior Eurovision in Tbilisi, Georgia, where a new champion was crowned. We also look at the countries that will participate in Eurovision 2026, and later in the programme, I'll be explaining everything about the ESC Top 250, and I'll also be sharing my votes for this year's charts. Are you sitting comfortably? Good, then we'll begin. Firstly, a small tiny cause for a bit of celebration here in the Euro Den, because as of the 17th of December, a notification popped up on my phone to tell me that we have hit 50 streams and downloads for this podcast on Spotify since the launch back in September. It's only a small milestone, but the fact that you take the time out of your everyday life to listen to this podcast makes doing this and putting all the minutes and hours into recording and editing these episodes feel worthwhile. So thank you so much. Of course, it's not just Spotify that you can listen to the Euroden. We're also out there on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Deezer and the like. So we're on a variety of platforms if you want a bit of Eurovision chinwag in your ears. A nice way to kick off the show. Now let's talk Junior Eurovision. The 23rd edition of the Eurovision Song Contest's little brother took place in the Tbilisi Gymnastics Palace in Tbilisi, Georgia 10 days ago, with David Aladashvili and Lisa Siklawi hosting the live final. The visual graphics consisted of vibrant colours and playful wording, with some letters in the slogan united by music and the names of each country breaking free into spontaneous handwritten shapes. The stage was based upon Georgian heritage, with sculptural forms inspired by Georgia's mountainous landscape, with castles, fortified villages and towers. At the heart stood a striking representation of a dole, a traditional folk drum. So the whole stage and themed LED backgrounds of the staging at Junior Eurovision was given more of a fairy tale kind of theme, as we saw in the opening acts as well. 18 countries competed for the W, and this was the winning order, which I shall go through right about now. So first up we had Malta's Elisa Borg with her song I Believe, then Azerbaijan with Yagmur with Meow Meow, then Marina Vergoc sung his song Snowy for Croatia, then Martina Cherevet performed Beyond the Stars for San Marino. In number 5 slots we had Albert Armenikian for Armenia with Braveheart, then Sofia Nersessian with Montanka representing Ukraine. Lottie O'Driscoll Murray had slot number 7 for Ireland with her song Rune. Then Meadow with her song Freeze for Netherlands. And then closing out the first half was Mariana Kloss with Brightest Lights for Poland. In the second half, we had North Macedonia's Nela Mancheska with Miracle. Then Asya Zogovic performed Ituzna Isrezna Prisha. I never got the pronunciation for that one right at all, singing for Montenegro in song 11. Then Leonardo Giovangeli with Rockstar for Italy in slot number 12. Then Para onde vai o amor, Where Does Love Go? That was the song performed by Portugal's Inês Gonçalves. Then Gonzalo Pinos with Awazo Univez, I should say, Once Upon a Time. It's representing Spain in slot number 14. Then the host country, Georgia, with Anita Abgariani with Shine Like a Star in slot number 15. Then Rafaela Pantelli and Christos Georgiou with their song Away for Cyprus in number 16. Then you had Lou Deleuze with Simone for France. And closing the show was Kwoni Pula with her song Fruta Perima, representing Albania. After the performances, we saw 3 out of 4 past Junior Eurovision winners from Georgia perform brand new songs. Bazikabi, the 2008 winners, performed We Don't Sleep. And then we had Candy, the 2011 winners, singing their new song, Code. Both absolute bops, especially Code. Can't stop getting it in my head of recent. Unfortunately, 2016 winner Mariam Mamardashvili was not at the show, but we did see last year's winner Andrew Puktavadze on stage, both in the opening act, sing a bit of his winning song To My Mom, just before the flag parade, and again in the interval act to join all 18 contestants to sing this year's common song titled We're Rising High, before one participant rose higher up the scoreboard the most. Talking of scoreboards, I'll run that up shortly. First, I'm going to share my personal ranking of all the songs in the contest from bottom to the top. So my 18th place was Malta, then in 17th was Italy, then 16th Portugal, and 15th Ireland, then I had North Macedonia 14th, Azerbaijan 13th, Poland 12th, and Cyprus in 11th. So for the top 10, my 1 point in 10th place went to Georgia, the host country. 9th was Croatia with 2 points. I gave 3 points to Montenegro in 8th place. I gave 4 points to France in 7th. Sixth place with 5 points for San Marino. And then my top 5 were Spain in 5th with 6 points. Albania 4th with 7 points. My 8 points went to the Netherlands in 3rd. My runner-up, getting 10 points, was Ukraine. And then my winner, getting my personal 12 points, 12 points, was Armenia. Okay, so that was my personal ranking. But now let's see how the actual results went down. Remember that the overall winner was determined by a 50-50 ratio between the votes from the national juries and the votes from the public. It's at this point that I should mention that there were 2 rounds of online voting. The first round of voting opened at 8 p.m. GMT, 9 p.m. Central European Time on Friday, the 12th of December, and froze at 3:59 p.m. GMT, that's Greenwich Mean Time, 4:59 p.m. Central European Time on Saturday, the 13th of December, just 1 minute before the live final started. The votes then reopened for round 2 after all the participants had performed. That window lasted for approximately 15 minutes before the votes closed for good with the famous countdown. We began, as always, with the jury vote, with all 18 countries enlisting a jury of 3 adults who are professionals in the music industry, along with 2 young people aged 10 to 15. Those juries accounted for 50% of the final score, and this is how the judges have voted from bottom to top. So at the bottom of the list, we had Cyprus and Ireland, both with 3 points. Then we got Montenegro with 10 points. Azerbaijan had 12 points. Italy, 26. Croatia, 28. Portugal, 32. San Marino, 38. Netherlands, 47. And on the left-hand side of the scoreboard, we had Malta with 54 points. Albania with 60 points. Poland with 72. Ukraine with 79. North Macedonia had 92 points in 5th, then Spain 98 in 4th, Armenia with 117 in 3rd, Georgia 121 in 2nd, and France won the jury votes with 152 points. Once that was done, it was on to the international public verdict in the form of the online votes. That was the other 50% of the results, and the points each act received depended on the percentage of votes received in accordance to an algorithm that the EBU uses to calculate the number of points received from votes cast online, though not matched directly one-on-one. Now, this is based on percentage of points available allocated. Again, from bottom to top, here's how the public have voted. So, last place in online votes was Malta, getting 38 points, 3.64% of the votes. Montenegro scored 39 points with 3.74%. Portugal got 41, 3.93%, as did Ireland. Croatia got 4.02%, so 42 points. Then 4.41% got 46 points for the Netherlands. Then 47 points for both Malta, no, what am I saying? No, Cyprus, there we go. Cyprus and Italy, both scoring 47 points with 4.5%. Then we go up to North Macedonia, going 49 points with 4.69%. Then Spain with 54 points, 5.17%, as did Azerbaijan. Then 1 point more was Cyprus. Georgia, I'm getting things wrong today. Georgia got 55 points, 5.27% of the votes. Then Armenia just missing out on the top 5 in the online votes, scoring 58 points. That's 5.56% of the points available. Poland got 67 points, 6.42%. Then Albania scoring 85 points. That's 8.14% of the votes. 2 points higher than Albania was San Marino, scoring 87 points with 8.33% of the votes. Then we've got France scoring 96 points, taking 9.2% of the votes. And then the winner of the online votes was Ukraine, scoring 98 points, 2 points shy of scoring 100 points from the public. Ukraine acquired 9.39% of the public votes, so 0.2% over France. With both jury and public verdicts combined, these were the final scores once more from bottom to top. In last place was Ireland with 44 points. Then second last was Montenegro with 49 points. Then Cyprus rounding off the bottom 3 with 50 points in 16th. In 15th, Azerbaijan with 66. Croatia with 70. Portugal 73, tied with Italy. Then Malta with 92, Netherlands in 93 in 10th place, and rounding off the right-hand side of the scoreboard. Jumping over to the left-hand side of the scoreboard, San Marino with 125 points, Poland 139, so San Marino 125, Poland 139, then North Macedonia 141 points in 7th place, San Marino 9th, Poland 8th, North Macedonia 7th. 6th was Albania with 145 points. Then in 5th place, we got Spain with 152 points. But then 4th, 3rd, and 2nd place have all been separated by just 1 point between each other going up. So we've got Armenia in 4th with 175, 1 point behind Georgia in 4th with 176. And then 1 point behind Ukraine in 2nd with 177 points. But the winner of the Junior Eurovision Song Contest 2025 was La France, scoring 248 points in their grand total. So that was the overall results. But next up, let's check out the community rankings on Eurovision ranking apps. Well, 3 of them anyway. My Eurovision Scoreboard, Eurovision Place, and Europarty. For each one, I'll just look at the top 5. Now, this was after the show, or more to the point, 10 days after the show. So would have been very different prior to the show. So, in the community rankings for my Eurovision scoreboard, the top 5 is as follows. In 5th place was San Marino with 16,318 points. Then Poland in 4th with 17,723. France 3rd with 18,859. Then Armenia with 20,103. And then Ukraine was number 1 with 23,534 points. Next, the rankings for Eurovision place, where the top 5 on that particular platform was as follows. So in 5th place was Poland with 1,023 points. Then you had Georgia with 1,059 points. San Marino 3rd with 1,090. Armenia 2nd with 1,125. And Ukraine number 1 with 1,242 points, with the overall winner, France, being 6th with 990 points. And now let me find Euro Party and bring you the top 5 in that particular app's community rankings. So 5th was Poland with 388 points. Then 4th was the actual winner, France, with 398. Then San Marino with 410 in 3rd. Armenia 2nd with 466 points. And then with 500 points, Ukraine topped the Euro Party community rankings in 1st place. Finally, these were my predictions for what I thought the results would probably end up. Bear in mind that Junior Eurovision is a little more harder to predict than ESC because we only have fan community rankings and stagings go off because betting odds are not a thing in JSC. Thank the Lord. There are kids here, for Pete's sake. And also, gambling's bad, kids. Anyway, starting with the top 5, I predicted France as the winner, which I got correct. Then I predicted Armenia's finish in 2nd place. Got that one wrong because Ukraine finished there instead. Funnily enough, I predicted Ukraine to finish 3rd, but Georgia finished there instead. Then Spain 4th and Poland 5th. Both those were wrong. Armenia came 4th and Spain came 5th. I predicted Cyprus to come in last place. They were very close to doing so, but they finished 2 places above it because Ireland finished last instead. And I predicted Italy and Croatia to join in the bottom 3, but nope. Montenegro and Cyprus were there instead. So I was very close with Cyprus in terms of last place, but not actually accurate. And I didn't predict them in the bottom 3 either. So that's why I got those wrong. Highest scoring solo boy, I predicted to be Albert from Armenia. And that was correct. He came 4th. The top 3 were all solo girls. Talking of solo girls, I predicted France to be the highest scorer with Lou Deleuze. Well, I got that one right because obviously Lou won. The jury votes winner, I predicted that to be France. Got that correct. And online votes winner, I predicted that to be Ukraine. Got that one right as well. So 5 out of 12 I scored with my predictions. After this year's contest, this is the winners list now, with now 23 winners of the Junior Eurovision Song Contest, as well as a table for how many countries have won and the years they won. So we start with the very first contest in 2003 in Copenhagen, where Dino Jelicic won for Croatia with Tisi Moja Povalubav, or Tisi Moja Povalubav rather. Then Lillehammer 2004 was won by Spain, Maria Isabel with Antemorta de Cristisia. Then Hasselt, Belgium in 2005 saw the first win for Belarus with Ksenia Sitnik with My Vmiste. don't think that's how I pronounce it, but I don't think so. Then Russia won in 2006 in Bucharest with the Tomacheva sisters with Vesini Jazz. The Tomacheva sisters will go on to represent Russia in the adults contest in 2014, just to let you know. Then we had to Rotterdam, the Netherlands, where Belarus picks up another win with Alexei Shigalkovich with Druziami. Then Georgia won for the first time in 2008 with Bezikabi with Buzz. Well, we were talking about Bezikabi earlier. Then Kiev 2009 was won by Walf Muckenbach with the song Click Clack for Netherlands. The first Armenian win, courtesy of Vladimir Azumanian with Mama in Minsk 2010. Then Candy with their song Candy Music won for Georgia in 2011 in Yerevan. Candy, again, we referenced earlier, be performing during the interval act. Anastasia Petrik picked up Ukraine's only win to date in 2012 with Nebo in Amsterdam. Then Malta picked up 2 wins in 2013 in Kiev and 2015 in Sofia, thanks to Gaia Cauchi with The Start and Destiny Trucaniere with Not My Soul, both on either side of Italy's win on their debut in 2014 in Malta with Vincenzo Cantiello with Tu Primo Grande Amore. So we have Gaia, Vincenzo, Destiny. Then we have Mariam Mamdashvili with Zeo winning in Valletta for Georgia in 2016. Then Russia would pick up its second Junior Eurovision win and their last Junior Eurovision win in 2017 in Tbilisi with Paulina Bogusevich with her song Wings. Then Poland became the first country to win Junior Eurovision twice back-to-back, starting with Roxana Vengio with Anyone I Want to Be in Minsk 2018, and then Vicky Gabor on home soil in Gliwice, Silesia a year later in 2019 with Superhero. 2020's contest in Warsaw, which was held in the midst of the COVID pandemic, that was where France picked up their first win with Valentina with J'imagine. Then Paris 2021 saw Armenia win again, this time with Malena with Kami Kami. Then we headed to Yerevan, where France snatched the crown back with Lissandro au Maman, and then they had their own back-to-back winning moment with Zoe Clausur winning on home soil in Nice with her song Cœur. Then we headed to, but France turned down the hosting gig to host 2024, and that's how we ended up in Madrid in Spain. And that was where Georgia won with Andrea Puctoadze against all the odds with his song To My Mom. And that brings us right up to date with this year's contest in Tbilisi, where, as you already know by now, France won again with Lou Deleuze with her song Simone. Now, for the number of wins per country. So Georgia and France now share the record for the most wins with 4 wins apiece. Then you got Belarus, Malta, Russia, Poland and Armenia, all with 2 wins, with Croatia, Spain, Netherlands, Ukraine and Italy, all with 1 win each. As you can see, 12 different countries have won Junior Eurovision at least once out of the 40 countries that participated in the contest over the last 23 editions. With 7, let me just check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 countries. 7 of those countries winning it multiple times. And Lou Deleuze's winning score of 248 points is the second highest score in Junior Eurovision history. Only Poland's 2019 winner Vicky Gabor scored more with 278 points. Thanks to Lou's win, and as per the rules, France got first refusal to host next year's competition. Remember, the winning country doesn't automatically have to host the following year, but they get first dibs to host if they want to. France Télévisions, the French broadcaster, made good use of this clause this week to decline the hosting gig for next year due to financial reasons, with the broadcaster seeking to make savings of in the region of 140 million euros. Alright, let's now look ahead to the 70th anniversary edition of the Eurovision Song Contest in 2026. As you know, it's happening in Vienna, Austria, after JJ's win in Basel, Switzerland back in May of this year. The two semi-finals will be on Tuesday the 12th and Thursday the 14th of May, with JJ handing over the winner's trophy on Saturday the 16th of May in the grand final. Last week, it was confirmed that 35 countries will be participating in the contest next year. Let's take a look at that list right now. So we have Albania, Armenia, Australia, the host country Austria, Azerbaijan, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, Czechia, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Junior Eurovision champions France, Georgia, Germany, Greece, Israel, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Moldova, Montenegro, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, San Marino, Serbia, Sweden, Switzerland, Ukraine, and the United Kingdom. Among that list are Bulgaria, Moldova, and Romania, who all return to the contest for the first time since 2022, 2024, and 2023, respectively. Bulgaria last took part in Turin, Moldova last took part in Malmö, and Romania were last seen competing in Liverpool. However, nothing really came to fruition about Canada making their debut in 2026, and we didn't seem to get far regarding participation for Kazakhstan either, didn't we? You will notice that I missed off some key countries when I went through the list, namely Netherlands, Spain, Ireland, Slovenia, and Iceland. That's because they have all withdrawn from the upcoming edition due to the continued participation of Israel. Of the 5 countries that have withdrawn, 4 of them withdrew immediately after a vote was held during the EBU General Assembly earlier this month, after 8 countries called for a secret ballot. But the EBU conditioned the vote, making it about the approval of the new voting rules and regulations in the Eurovision Song Contest instead, something that I explained in the last episode. So go check it out if you haven't already. Those voting reforms were approved by a large majority. 1,122 votes were present and validly represented, of which 738 voted yes, 264 voted no, and 120 abstained from the votes. Therefore, there was no further vote on participation, which meant that Israel would be able to compete at Eurovision 2026 in Vienna. But that led to those countries withdrawing from the contest. And I do have those statements from the broadcasters that have withdrawn, starting with Dutch broadcaster Avrotros, which reads as follows, and I quote, Avatros has decided not to participate in the Eurovision Song Contest in 2026. This decision follows a careful process in which information was gathered from a wide range of stakeholders, from the Israeli ambassador to Amnesty International, from the EBU to various European public broadcasters, and internally from our own association, council, works council, and supervisory board, as well as the many thousands of Eurovision fans who reached out. All things considered, Avatros concludes that participation under the current circumstances is incompatible with the public values that are essential to us. The decision was made in close consultation with the NPO, which respects and supports this consideration. Next, the statement from Spanish broadcaster RTVE. It reads as follows. RTVE has announced Spain's withdrawal from the Eurovision Song Contest following the votes held today in Geneva at the 95th EBU General Assembly, which resulted in Israel remaining in the European music competition. The RTV Board of Directors agreed last September that Spain would withdraw from Eurovision if Israel participated. The withdrawal from the festival also means that RTVE will not broadcast the Eurovision 2026 final, which will be held in Vienna on May the 16th, nor the previous semi-finals of the contest, which will take place on the 12th and 14th. End quote. That's statements from RTVE. However, Benidorm Fest, Spain's national selection for Eurovision Song Contest, will still be held as normal, but as a standalone contest instead. The next statement I'm about to read comes from Irish broadcaster RTE, Radio Television Éireann, and it reads as follows. Following today's EBU Winter General Assembly in Geneva, at which Israel's participation in the 2026 Eurovision Song Contest was confirmed, RTE's position remains unchanged. RTE will not participate in the 2026 Eurovision Song Contest, nor will RTE broadcast the competition. RTE feels that Ireland's participation remains unconscionable, given the appalling loss of lives in Gaza and the humanitarian crisis there, which continues to put the lives of so many civilians at risk. RTE remains deeply concerned by the targeted killings of journalists in Gaza during the conflict and the continued denial of access to international journalists to the territory. A statement from Natalia Gorshak, president of the RTV's SLO Management Board in Slovenia, said the following. For the third year in a row, the public has been demanding that we say no to the cooperation of any country that's attacking another country. We must follow European standards for peace and understanding. From the very beginning, Eurovision was a place for joy and happiness. The performers and the audience were united by music, and so it should remain. Those are the four countries that withdrew immediately on the day of the General Assembly. Nearly a week later, Iceland would also depart from the competition, with Stefan Eriksson, the Director General of Broadcasting at RÚV, the Icelandic broadcaster, stating the reason for Iceland's non-participation is, and I quote, simply because there is no peace or joy connected to this contest as things stand now. On that basis, first and foremost, we are stepping back while the situation is as it is. It is unclear whether their national competition Songvakeppnin will be held at all next year, but RÚV will still broadcast the events in May for Icelandic audiences. Because we are literally talking about a country whose population, almost all of the population, about well over 95% of the Icelandic population watch the Eurovision Song Contest year in, year out, even if Iceland doesn't make it to the Saturday grand final. So it's a big deal that Iceland are among the countries that are pulling out. Make no mistake about it, the 70th anniversary of the Eurovision Song Contest has taken a pummeling, and I have a sinking feeling within me that we might just have seen the last grand final with 26 countries. Because with Spain withdrawing, the big five drops to being a big four, meaning that we'll only have 25 countries in the Eurovision 2026 final, with said big four, along with host country and reigning champions Austria. It's such a sad state of affairs, and we will miss seeing Netherlands, Spain, Ireland, Slovenia and Iceland on the big stage. Now, I have seen many fans and people on social media saying that they are done with Eurovision altogether and will no longer engage with the contest in any way, as it no longer aligns with their personal values. And honestly, that's absolutely fine. I do not blame them, to be honest. This contest has had, well, quite a stain on its copybook in the last 2 years. And it doesn't look like 2026 is gonna be any different. God, I'm getting my words. Well, I'm getting a mess, just like the contest is in a mess. But at the same time, I have seen a small number of folks on social media that still insist in continuing to engage with Eurovision, even with Israel still in. And that's okay too. Whether you are boycotting the contest altogether or you choose to stick it out, or whether you engage the contest in a different manner, at the end of the day, it is your choice, your decision, and it absolutely should be respected. What we are not going to do, though, God forbid, please, can we not, is to get into all this fighting on what we decide to do and hating on people because of it, nor are we going to act all high and mighty, whatever we choose to do, or however we feel, because that's not going to get us anywhere in life. Not to mention that it is not easy for many people to give up something that has been part of their lives since they were kids, and something that has provided a sense of community and given them so many memorable moments. Also, let us not send any hate or vitriol towards the artists that do eventually go to Vienna to compete for their countries in the Eurovision Song Contest. Let us not do that either, for heaven's sake. The one thing we can agree on is that the contest is all the more poorer for it with these 5 withdrawals. However, the EBU have confirmed to Norwegian broadcaster NRK that there won't be any rise in participation fees for this year anyway, despite the 5 withdrawals. That's easy for them to say, but have they brought upon some short and long-term pain? Well, we'll be the judge of that, and I'll let you be the judge of that as well. It's anyone's guess at this point. But in any case, this is not, I repeat, not how you celebrate the 70th anniversary of the biggest music competition in the world. And the European Broadcasting Union have, well, to coin a well-known phrase, made their bed and now they have to lie in it. And that's on period. I repeat, period. You could say they had it coming, and they only had themselves to blame.
He had it coming. He only had himself to blame. Ended up in that. You would have done the same.
Moving on to the countries that will actually be there, 3 of them have their acts confirmed and 2 have also chosen their songs. Let's do this in chronological order. For a second year in a row, Cyprus was the first country to show their cards and confirm their acts, with Antigone getting the nod. Folks in the United Kingdom might have heard her name before, as she was a contestant on Series 8 of British reality show Love Island. She is also the daughter of TV presenter, restaurateur and author Tonya Buxton. Her song will be released at a later date. In the past weekend just gone, we saw Albania and Montenegro select their artist and song for Vienna. The very first song of Eurovision 2026 was brought to us by Albania, who after 4 nights of the 64th edition of Festivali Ikengas, with 2 semi-finals and a nostalgia night and a final, they have thrown their backing towards Alice, a talented musician who, at the age of only 21, has managed to build an impressive profile in the Albanian music scene since winning Series 5 of the Albanian version of The X Factor. He dominated both the jury and public votes with his song Nan. Now, he previously finished 3rd in last year's Fix 63 behind Shkodra Electronica, who won the competition, and Elvana Jatsa, who was the runner-up. But this time, he's on the top step and on the flight to Vienna. 24 hours later, and it was Montenegro's turn. They brought us the last thing I want to talk to you about is Eurovision's answer to the official Big Top 40, but annually rather than weekly and a lot bigger. The ESC Top 250. First starting live way back in 2007, it's an annual chart countdown featuring 250 of the most loved Eurovision songs of all time, from 1956 all the way up to the present day. It has been conducted every year apart from 2010, as there was no votes for that year. How it works is that Eurovision fans are invited to vote for their favourite songs via Belgian fan site songfestival.be, which has been hosting the voting platform since 2017. The fans vote in the same manner as the voting system in Eurovision. By that, I mean they would vote for their top 10 songs from 1 to 8, 10, and their most favourite song getting their illustrious 12 points. 12 points. Voting normally opens in November and ends in early December. This year's top 250 votes opened on Monday, the 10th of November, and had closed on Sunday, the 7th of December. All those votes are then pooled together, and the 250 songs with the most points make up the charts, which is then played out on New Year's Eve from 10 a.m. GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, 11 a.m. CET, Central European Time, and finishes with the number 1 song just before midnight in Europe, CET, or 11 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. The ESC 250 was aired by online radio channel ESC Radio from 2009 until 2022. Since 2023, the chart has been broadcast by French Eurovision radio station EFR12 Radio, and it was on that station in that year that an on-air presenter hosted the charts for the very first time. So here's a list of number ones in ESC Top 250 from 2007 up to the recent one last year. Starting in 2007 with the very first number 1 being Finland's 1977 entry, Laponia, sung by Monica Aspelund. Then 2008 number 1 was Neka Minisvana by Daniela, representing Croatia in 1998. The number 1 in ESC Top 250 for 2009 was Is It True by Johanna, Iceland's runner-up, that from that year's Eurovision Song Contest, coincidentally enough. Then we skip 2010 and go to 2011 with Željko Joksimovic with his song Len Moja from 2004, representing what was at the time Serbia and Montenegro. Then from 2012 all the way to 2021, Loreen from Sweden.